So I might have bought a scraper. This is a Eversman 600 scraper. No idea the year model. I'm guessing probably from the 70s when most of these things were made. But I seen it on Marketplace and decided I had to have it. And the story I got on this thing was the guy that I bought this from, it belonged to his father-in-law who had passed away, and this was left to him, and he didn't need it anymore. And this is a dolly type scraper. I'll probably be converting it to a regular style drawbar style to I probably use the hubs off of that dolly, because I think we're gonna have some bad hubs back here on the back. It looks fairly well mechanically sound, other than the cutting edge, and I'm sure the hydraulic cylinders are going to be needing replaced, as well as the hoses. The guy said he didn't know anything about this thing other than his father-in-law had used it to dig a pond with like over 10 years ago, and he didn't know anything about it other than that. But the cutting edge, look at that and see if you see anything wrong with that. Let me get you a view from the top. See anything wrong with that cutting edge? It looks to me like it never got used after that got put on there, because if you look, it's put on there wrong and it's welded on. So I think that they run this thing until it wouldn't cut anymore by looking at how the wear is wore back where the cutting edge was supposed to bolt to, and then they got a piece of cutting edge, but they welded it on their bottom, and so when they tried to use it, it didn't cut, and then they parked it and never touched it again. That's what it appears to me, because the new cutting edge has still got yellow paint on it, and if you used it for more than a few minutes, it wouldn't have yellow paint on it. And so that's kind of what I'm thinking. So that'll have to be cut off, rebuilt that cutting edge, the mounting spot right there, and put the cutting edge on the right way. It does have some pretty heavy pitting in the box back here, but it still seems to be solid. The metal on this is pretty thick, you can see right there, so it should still be good. I'll just give this thing a once over whenever I went and looked at it, but I didn't see a whole bunch of slack or anything in any of the pins that was really noticeable just from looking at it. Everything's got a grease zerk on it, so we'll have to go over and see if we can get all that to take grease and what that's going to take. And I'm sure these cylinders are going to have to be replaced, because I don't know if you can even get a packing kit for it. And something I was reading on the internet, people were saying that they didn't think that these cylinders would hold up to the higher pressures of today's hydraulic system, because when these things were made, the hydraulic pressures wasn't that high. And so guys were saying that the end of these would blow out, but I don't know how true that is. This thing does have a couple of roller bearings. One of them is right there, and then it has one on the other end as well, where this door opens up down here. And I don't know, hopefully we're going to be able to get those freed up as well. This one sort of turns. Maybe it's just got some hard grease in it. Maybe we can get that. It doesn't seem to be flat spotted or something, so it was turning apparently. So if we can get those to move and get everything greased up, and get some tires and stuff on this thing and fix that cutting edge, and as I say, I think we will do away with this dolly, and I'll put some kind of adjustable hitch on here. We're saying a hook directly to a drawbar, and should be able to get something usable out of it. So I guess that's just a once over, kind of the once over that I done when I went and looked at the thing. You see a little better image of that cutting edge right there. I think it's supposed to be on an angle and bolted in where those holes are at, but as you see, they run the thing so long that it's eat away at the metal, and then they put a cutting edge and put it on there wrong, and I can guarantee you that I bet that thing won't cut jack diddly nothing with that cutting edge on there like that. So anyway, let me get this thing unchained, and we'll see about getting her unloaded. Alright guys, so I finally got this thing in the shop here. This thing is heavy. I put it up on the scales to check it out, and it weighs about pretty close to what I figured it was. I was figuring it was 3,000 to 4,000 pounds. Showing 3,700. Got 800 pounds on each dolly wheel on the front. As you see there. And then on the back, $1,050. And $1,050. I had to jack the back up and reset these scales back here because I jostled it around so much getting it on there, and it spiked the scales and had an error, so I had to jack it up and reset the scale, re-zero the scale. But 3,700 pounds, and that sucker's heavy. I wound up breaking this pipe off, which I can get that out. Should be able to. That's not a huge deal. I think we're probably gonna have to replace these anyways. So that's not a huge deal. I was kind of expecting when I bought this thing, you know, tires, hydraulic cylinders, and a whole new set of hoses, and cutting edge. Like I say, that ain't gonna cut like that, and do away with this dolly. This dolly was already a pain just getting this thing backed up in here. We'll put some kind of adjustable hitch on it where to hook directly to the drawbar. All right guys, so we are fixing the broke stuff, or the stuff that I broke first. A little trick here that I use a lot of times because I don't have a correct easy out is that's just a cheap old chisel, and ground it down to a taper so that I could drive it in there. And I did this a while back, a good while back, on something I was working on. I don't remember what, but I've kept this around for stuff like this. You drive that sucker in, heated this up with a little MAP gas torch there, and I got it to budge a little bit. We're gonna spin that thing out of there. So not the end of the world. Like I say, I think the cylinder still jumped, but, and there she is. All right, so we're ready to put another fitting in there. Connect that back, and then after the cylinder leaks, we can replace it anyways. All right, so I got my little grease joint rejuvenator tool that sometimes works, sometimes doesn't, depending on how bad the situation is. But we're gonna try that on these rollers here and see if I can dissolve that grease in there a little bit and get this thing to turn by hand, and then we'll grease it. Oh yeah, I thought that would work. I don't know how bad the roller bearing is. This tool works sometimes on certain things, and sometimes it don't. If the grease is really hard in the zerk or on into the hole in the pin, it won't work. Something like that, it will. Let me do the other side over there. Kind of go around and do some of that. Like I say, it ain't gonna work on all of them. We're gonna come back and grease this thing, figure out which ones will take grease, which ones won't, and we'll know what we need to address. Got those freed up. Seems like this thing may have been greased pretty regular just by looking at those. What we got set up, but I don't know. Trying to get this stuff to take grease by adding a little heat to it. You got to be kind of careful doing that. That can explode if it gets too hot. So I'm kind of standing back out of the way there. Give it a minute to heat up, trying to get everything to take grease. I've got most everything on this side here. Everything to take grease. Most everything on the other side except for one. I'm gonna go back and heat it. Well, no, except for two. The one on the bottom here and then one of these up here. And there's some rollers like this right here, down in here, that I don't know if they grease through that same alamite or grease syrup, or if there's no way to grease them. I'm gonna have to look at that. Trying to soften that grease up so I can push some fresh in there. Yeah, so I think I've got everything greased. I'm still not sure about those other rollers down in there that's like this. This one's got a grease zerk in the end of it, as I say. The other ones, I don't know if they do or not, but you can't get to them unless there's a trick when you raise this up. Maybe they're accessible. I'm not sure. But anyway, I'm trying to get some hoses on this thing just to see if it'll raise up. Some of these, I mean, they obviously need to be replaced and they're going to blow out soon, but I think they would tilt the thing up. I've got a couple of hoses over there. I'm going to replace the ones that are cut and broken in two, which is what I'm doing now. And replace those and see what happens here. Some hoses I already had in stock. They're just all random lengths of stuff. There's two of them I got laid there. I've got three more short ones. One may fit here, and then I got to do something. This here got broke off in here, so I either got to get this out like I did that cylinder over there, or I got to weld this back to that and make it work. Either way, I think we're going to get enough hoses hooked up here to see what happens. Some hoses stuck on here, some old hoses, just temporary, see what happens. This hose right here where this wasp is at is the worst one that I have not replaced. So it's probably going to be the one that blows if it does blow. And anyway, I think maybe as long as I don't let the pressure build up when the cylinder gets to the end of the stroke, I should be able to raise it and dump it, cycle it, see what happens. Well, I was mistaken. We sprung a leak on the other side over there. So we sprung a leak right here, right around the fitting. It appears it sprayed all out there. I've got one more hose, but it's not very long. But as long as this one is, we might can get it on there and make it work. So I stuck this short little hose here on there and just run this one here that had to slacken it over here with a 90 on it and tied her together right there. So I guess let's see what happens now, where the next leak is going to be, whether it's the cylinders or some more hoses. I'd like to at least see this thing cycle a couple of times before I go to buying hoses and all that stuff. Looks promising. Looks very promising. It closes off all the way down there. So we got to redo that cutting edge. That's what it looks like dumped. Got a pretty wide gap down in there, about 3 foot or so. Still can't get to those rollers down there to see if you can grease them, because the way that comes all the way down, it's even worse. I don't see no leak on the cylinders yet, at least on that side. Look at this one. Yep, that one's leaking. That one's a leaking. I figured she was gonna be a leaker. This is supposed to have a clip on it. It's gone. That's gonna mess around and come off of there in a minute. We did get grease around that bearing there. After I work this thing up and down a few times, I'll go back and re-grease and see what looks like it's taking grease and what ain't. It looks like I can put a little bigger tire on this thing. I was wondering about that. I'd like to put something a little bit bigger on there. And I was wondering how much depth it had when the cylinders were all the way collapsed. As you see, it's got the front off the ground a good 6 inches right there on the dolly. We were running into that problem with over at my buddy's place there. Was messing with his or that rental scraper we were pulling. He had it hooked to a 6135 and the drawbar was too tall, and the scraper wouldn't go down far enough. It was only cutting a couple of inches, if that. It just was barely touching the ground. And the box was almost flat, so it wasn't cutting very well. Yeah, that old cutting edge ain't gonna cut nothing like that. This old cylinder's leaking more now. I kind of figured I'd do something with them or get some new ones. Alright guys, so I have pulled off a tire here just to take a look-see and do some measuring on the wheels and tires and see what kind of tire I can fit on here. Also looking at the grease in this. This hub's been replaced before. It's the only hub on here. It's got a grease zerk in it. They put some duct tape on it. I guess try to keep the dirt and stuff out. The seals probably don't last too long running in the dirt. I don't know. But anyway, it does have some grease in it. The bearing doesn't feel bad. And I'm also doing some math calculations on the drawbar up here, because I want to remove this dolly out from under here, because if you've ever had any experience with a dolly like this, you're not going to be backing it up. It does not transfer weight to the tractor, which could be good or bad depending on the situation. It's bad for traction. It's good to keep from preventing breaking the drawbar off. But I'm doing some math calculations to see what the weight transfer would be when this thing is full. And I'm coming up with it's going to be over 6,000 pounds on this drawbar. So we may break that drawbar off. I have to shorten it up, put a heavy duty drawbar in there. Something like that. I'm looking on the internet at an Ashland 50 CS scraper, which is a high-end, pretty Cadillac scraper, I guess, for it's still currently, or that's what they currently make right now, Ashland. There's not a whole lot of companies that make scrapers for, 100 horse range tractors these days. But this is the Ashland scraper, just looking at some specs on it to compare. And it lists the weight transfer, and they've got something real similar to what I'm coming up with here. I don't know how well that's picking up on camera, but they're showing that their scraper weighs 4,400 pounds. The weight transfer is 64% on the scraper, 36% on the tractor, which if you do the math on that, that gives you about 6,000 pounds on the drawbar. I'm coming up with slightly more than that. You can change that figure by extending your tongue length, which is going to transfer less weight to the tractor, but it doesn't change it much. On that Ashland pan, it's a 5-yard scraper. I don't know exactly what dirt weighs, but I'm thinking 2,500 pounds a yard times 5 gives you 12.5. They say the pan weighs 4,400. 16.9, just for rough math, we'll do 17,000 minus, what was it, 64%? It gives you 6,100 pounds on the drawbar left for the tractor to tote. This pan here is a 6-yard. Supposedly, you may not get 6 all the way in it, depending on you know, the horsepower of the tractor and how well that thing does pulling. It may not be able to get 6 in it. It may only get 5 in it, so it may not be much difference. But 2,500 times 6 is 15,000 plus 3,700 for the scraper itself. So we're going to be about 2,000 pounds heavier. So we'll just do 18.5 for rough math. And then I'm thinking that I'm going to be about 62% or something, 63% on my weight transfer. So we may have that much weight on the drawbar. I don't know if I get it up to 64 by making the tongue a little longer. So that's a lot of weight on the drawbar. I don't know how well that's going to hold up. Probably not very well. Probably break it off. Probably have to put a newer, a heavier drawbar in it. But anyways, we're going to pull this apart right here because it's got all kind of slack in it. I don't know if they didn't tighten it up good or if it's got that much wear in it. I hope that's not the case. We're going to take it apart here and see. Shoot, the nut may be stripped out. It ain't no telling. You know how people do. I'm actually surprised it's even got grease in it. Well, let me set you guys down over here so I can get that nut off. So let's pull this nut off here and see what the issue is here. This is the worst one that's loose. Well, that was great. Where my chisel went up under there. That grease actually looks really good in there. The seal is messed up. Guess that's why they had duct tape on it. Let's see if we can get this bearing and seal off. Seal's already jumped. The bearing might be before we get it off. thing must have done turned on here, boogered up or something. Yeah, they done somebody done boogered it up there a little bit, I believe. There we go. We got her now. So, grease all over my boot. If we can get a part number off of this seal or not. It's a 204038. This spindle may be the same as a trailer or something. I don't know. I'm sure it's the same as something or other. 204038. That is a Timken National Seal. One or the other. So that's pretty general seal there. So we should be able to get one of those, no problemo. Dirt all in the bearing because I dropped it on the ground. Got to clean all that up now. This is Timken bearing. It is a LM 29749. That is the inner. And the outer looks like a Timken LM 67048. At least I think that's an 8 on the end. That's what it looks like. But the bearings look okay. The best I can tell. They felt okay. So, we'll get us a seal. I'll go ahead and probably replace the seals in all of these. Back four back here. And these spindles right here are supposed to adjust for the height if you run in a different tire or whatever. I bet they don't adjust anymore. Probably hadn't been moved in so long, but you're supposed to be able to loosen this bolt up, and this is off-centered here. You're supposed to be able to rotate that and put it in a different spot. But I don't know how exactly that works. But that's the idea behind it, I believe. It's just got one bolt that holds it in there, it looks like. I don't know if you can slide this in and out, or if it's got an indentation that it goes into, or what there, but I bet it's seized in there tight.
Yeah, they've got some marks on that right there, so I'll polish it up with some emery cloth, clean it up. The threads are stripped on that right there. That's the reason it wouldn't tighten up. You see that right there? Threads are gone. That's the reason that was loose. I knew it felt a little funny. It's worse on the bottom. I think they didn't let that spindle or that hub go bad, and it's done cocked down and cut the threads off the bottom and the top too a little bit. And this spindle is different than the one on the front because of the way this is offset in here. So we'll have to figure out something with that there to make that work.
So this nut right here, the threads are stripped out of it pretty well. So we're gonna need a new nut. And as I say, they're messed up right there. So I'm gonna pull the nut off of this one over here to see how bad this is. And I'm wondering if I could put a little bit of oil right here and get a die, or maybe take a good nut, turn it backwards, the inside is a castle nut, and run it up on there and cut some threads. I don't know if that'll work, but I'm gonna have to try something. That grease is a little gummy in there, but at least it's got a little grease in it. This nut here's got some threads in it. I don't know if you guys can see on camera the difference, but there's quite a bit of difference there. We may be fixing to destroy the nut, but I guess we can get another one. Figure out what thread this is and order a die. So yeah, they done run this thing too long and let the bearings go out in it, messed up this spindle. Then they ordered a new hub and put on it. That's what it appears to me. Now we're starting to get to the messed up part, so I'm going to back it back out here. Let's straighten the threads up a little bit. Turn around, see if I can get it to start backwards. We can do a little more with it, maybe. That's got enough thread on it that that once I get this straightened up, we can put a new nut on that and put a washer, a double washer in front of it. We can get this thing to snug up without doing no welding, I believe. We are cutting some threads though in the damaged part. I can see the metal there coming up. That thing may snug up without nothing else done to it, just a new nut.
It's cutting threads. Yeah, done went all the way up. We already have some threads there now. That didn't help the nut any, but kind of boogered up the outer part of it. We did get some threads to bite in there though. More surprises under the duct tape. That's the reason duct tape was on there. Somebody has busted the whole back out of that. Like, what were they doing? You can tell that's a new hub that somebody bought. It's the only one with a grease zerk. Busted the whole back out of it. That's crazy. I was wondering why they had duct tape on it. I guess now we know. I don't know how they did that. Been beating on it with a big hammer or something. I'm not sure. Well, the hubs are available if we need to get one, but I think we can pull one off of the front dolly up there. I think they're going to be the same as this, and we can use one of those since we're not going to be using that dolly. I'm putting a hitch on the front, so that'll save a little bit of money if we pull one of those off. I was figuring we probably had a bad something back here because I knew that thing had some slack in it. I'm trying to polish this thing up. I'm having to use a die grinder on it. I tried some emery cloth, but it's too far gone for that. I don't know if you can pick this up on camera, but you can see how the bottom of this is shaved down right there. So they run that thing a while with it cocked over like it was. But we're gonna do the best we can with it. Alright, I got this outer one where it'll go up on there pretty snugly. See about the inner one. I hadn't really messed with it too much. I think it's got a burr on the bottom down there. Alright, I about got this one snug for it to fit snugly up there. I say I do. Hold it straight, I will. Pretty snug fit. Alright, so that should work. As I say, we can pull a hub off the front up there and stick back here, and The rest of them I think are okay. I did feel one more that was loose. I hope it's not messed up like this. Maybe it's just a little bit loose. It didn't flop like this one did. This was the worst one. All right, guys, so this second spindle right here that I pulled off, I took the nut off of. It actually looks really good in there. I mean, the grease is pretty good. It's, you know, kind of old, but other than that, I mean, it's not really hard or anything. The seal looks decent-ish. So I'm actually not going to do anything to it, but put some more grease in it and put it back on there. And I'm probably going to catch some flack for doing that, but this thing is not going to be towed down the road at 60 miles an hour. We're not taking no trips in it or anything like that. It is a low-speed form implement, but it does need some grease in the bearings to live, and it needs a somewhat decent seal. I'm just going to take this grease gun needle down here. That way I ain't got to take this seal out on the back and grease this bearing down here. So this thing just has two flat plates up under the bottom here that holds this gooseneck on the ball right there. It's just a ball like right on the front right there. This was made so you could move that forward if you wanted to transfer weight to the tractor. But anyway, I think I'm going to have to use a wrench to get on that. I've got it picked up with the pan with the hydraulics right now, and I'm going to drop this dolly out from under here. I'll have to ease it down before I get the bolts all the way loose, I guess. But I got it up so I can get to it and see if I can get these bolts broke loose. Alright, so just two little plates right there with 4 bolts in it. Coupled around up on the bottom here, that neck held out on that goose ball. And I'm going to fabricate an adjustable hitch right here and make it so it'll sit on the drawbar. And it'd have bolts coming in like a kind of like a dump trailer is set up, except bigger and heavier duty. Have bolts coming in where you can take it loose and adjust your pin height. So we set that on the ground. Now I can pull the hub off of this dolly here, use it on the back. These here have some grease zerks in them too on the back side. I just noticed that, but it's supposed to be the same hub, I believe. Alright guys, so that nut that I used to tighten that up with, it didn't do so well. I mean, either that I used to kind of cut them threads. So I wound up using a new nut on this. And I'm probably going to take the other hub off that dolly and use the nut off it on that one. But I got it on there and it's holding right now. It may loosen up. Who knows? We'll cross that road when we get there. If it does, we've got plenty of grease in that. And we'll put the cap back on her. That's all that done. Alright guys, so I've got all 4 of the rear hubs greased and got 6 bolts in each one of them. The other 2 hubs, one of them has a bolt broke off in it. I cannot get it out. And then of course that hub there is busted, so it's junk. So out of 6 hubs, 4 of them were good. I was able to put something together. I believe these two implement tires here, the ones I got on each outside, would probably run for a little bit. These two here are 215 75-15 car tires, which if it was a 235 75-15, it would be about the same height and they would work. But as you see, that's not even touching the ground. Of course, in soft dirt, I suppose it would, but that is putting a lot more load on that outer spindle like that. So I'll have to figure out what to do with that. I kind of, on one hand, I'd like to convert them to 16-inch wheels, a little more tire options, but I did run across a backhoe tire for a front tire for a backhoe 11L15 that would work. These wheels are not the best in the world. As you see, that one's kind of bent, and they're a little bit eat up around the valve stem, some of them. These two wheels over here are both 14-inch, and so I can't even use them. They don't match nothing. He has a 14 and the other one's a 14. They just had them mixed and matched on here, and none of them, about half of them wasn't touching the ground when we aired them up, and kind of still got the same problem going on there. So anyways, if I can run across two 235 75-15s, I'm able to stick them on there and run them for a little while. I hate to spend a whole bunch of money on tires for this thing at the moment. I would rather spend the money on some cylinders and some hoses. And I think on this cutting edge here, I was thinking about doing this correct way and going and buying a piece of flat bar and putting it across there and welding it in, drilling the holes through it with the mag drill, cutting that cutting edge off, making it so you could bolt the cutting edge on and all that. But what I may do instead is just cut that cutting edge off and put it back up here, install it the right way, and weld it in. And I'm guessing that thing would probably last 300 or 400 hours before you had to do anything with it. And I don't know if I'd ever run this thing 300 or 400 hours in my lifetime. So I mean, I may just do that. I know that's not the proper way to do it, but it's already messed up the way they did it. So I may just cut that off to keep from having to spend another $200 or $300 in flat bar and bolts and all that stuff that goes along with that. May just cut that one off, flip it over, and put it on the right way, because it is a brand new cutting edge. It's never cut anything because they put it on there wrong. So put it on the right way, and I can extend it down a little lower than what you normally would, make it last a little longer, and then when it wears out, make it actually put another one on top of that if needed be, or something like that. Just trying to do this as economical as possible. And so I spend the money on a good hitch and either getting those cylinders repacked or buying some new ones and some hoses, flip that cutting edge, and then maybe we come up with 2 tires right here. Maybe I'll buy all 4, I don't know. I'll just see what I'm looking at when I get to that point and go from there. But anyway, that's about enough for this video. So thanks for watching. We'll see you guys in the next one.